Welcome to today's tutorial by Caz Academy. Today we are going to be looking at how to solve percentage problems. Be sure to see the links in the description for the official ACCUPLACER study material, as well as additional supports and resources to help you pass your ACCUPLACER Next Generation Arithmetic exam. So in order to solve percentage equations, we need to understand the relationship between percentages, decimals, and fractions. So let's say you were given 50%, and we want to convert that to a decimal. Well, if we're going to convert it to a decimal, the first thing we need to identify is where is the decimal. So anytime I have a whole number, there's always an imaginary decimal to the right. And if I move my decimal 2 places to the left, then I can convert my percentage to a decimal. So I'm going to identify that I have a decimal right here to the right of my whole number, move my decimal 2 places to the left, and that's going to convert my percentage to a decimal. Now this is 0.50. That last zero on the left, we can drop that, and we can also write that as 0.5. Those two decimals are equivalent. So now let's say they give us the same percentage of 50%, but this time they want us to convert it to a fraction. So whenever we're going to convert a percentage to a fraction, we're going to take the whole number that's in front of the percentage sign and then divide it by 100. So 50 over 100 is the fraction form of 50%. Now you want to remember that on your exam, they want you to have all of your answers in the most simplified form. So we're going to want to take this fraction and simplify it. 50 can go into 100, so we can divide both the top and the bottom by 50, and that's going to give me a fraction of 1/2. So that tells me that 50% equals 0.50, which equals 0.5, which equals 50.100, which equals 1/2. So all of these equations, these are all equivalent expressions. And you want to also pay attention to that if your problem gave you, if you had a multiple choice and you had one answer was 50 over 100 and the second option was 1/2, that the simplified version of 1/2 is going to be the correct answer. Even though those are two equivalent fractions, the one that is the most simplified, that's going to be considered the correct answer. Okay, so we just walked through how to convert percentages to decimals and fractions. Now let's go the opposite direction and convert decimals and fractions to a percentage. So let's say they give us 0.75, and we want to convert that to a percentage. So we're going to do just the opposite. So when we wanted to convert a percentage to a decimal, we moved 2 places to the left. When I want to convert a decimal to a percentage, we're going to go 2 places to the right. And then I'm going to put my little percentage sign. Okay, let's do the same thing with fractions. So most of the time when you have fractions, it's not necessarily going to be over 100. It's probably going to be in its most simplified form. So the first thing that you would want to do is you want to look at your fraction and say what number times the denominator is going to equal 100. Because we know that the bottom number needs to be 100 in order to make it a fraction. So we know that 4 times 25 is going to equal 100. So that means I need to multiply my numerator also by 25. And that's going to give me 75. And now I have my 75 over 100. So my 3/4 was the simplified form of 75 over 100. And I know that a number divided by 100 can also be written as a percentage. So once again, we can see that 0.75 equals 3 over 4 equals 75 over 100, and all of those equal 75%. So all of those expressions are equivalent. Now that we've learned how to convert a percentage to a decimal and a fraction, let's look at how to solve percentage equations, especially word problems containing percentages. So one of our biggest clues is that whenever I have a percentage problem, it's always going to be in the form of a portion equals a percent times a total. And we can use algebra to help us get some nice equations. So if I let my portion equal A, my percent equal B, and my total equal C, then I can figure out how to solve or set up equations to solve for each of these different types of questions. Now, one thing that we want to remember is that our percent, just like we talked about before, our B percent needs to be converted to a decimal or a fraction in order to solve any of our equations. Now, because we don't know how many digits this B number is, when we solve them, it's usually easier just to put B over 100. So the formula we're going to look for is A equals B over 100 times C. So if I'm solving for a portion of the total, that's going to be my A. My equation is going to be just the way that we have it written, B over 100 times C. So whatever, we're going to be solving for A, and we're going to put in the number that they give us for the percent, divide that by 100, and we're going to multiply that by C, which is the total amount that they give us. Now, using algebra, let's solve for the percent. So if I want to solve for the percent B, I'm going to need to change this equation around a little bit. So let's go to the side here, make sure we have enough room. So if I have A equals B over 100 times C, and I want to get B by itself, then that means I need to, so I want to get B all by itself. That means I need to divide both sides by the C, and so that that will cancel out, and I'm going to want to multiply both sides by 100, so the 100 cancels out. So that's going to give me 100 times A over C equals B. So then we can flip that around and say that B equals A over C times 100. So this is when we're solving for B. So when you have the B, you're going to put whatever they gave you as the portion. So remember, this is your A, this is your B, and this is your C. So whatever they give you in the problem as the portion, that's going to go on this top here for A. Whatever they give you as the total amount, that's going to be down here for C. You're going to divide those and multiply them by 100. Now the last one is solving for the total equals C. So once again, we're going to take this original equation So I have A equals B over 100 times C, and I want to get C all by itself. So if I want to get C all by itself, then I need to divide both sides by the B, so this B's cancel out, and I need to multiply both sides by 100. So that's going to give me 100 times A over B equals C. So I can flip that around and write that as C equals A over B times 100. So this is when I'm solving for C. I'm going to put whatever they give me as my portion, divide that by the number they give me for my percent, and then multiply that by 100. So here I have the three equations that you're going to want to remember when you are solving percentage problems. If you're solving for a portion of the total, then you are going to be solving, you're going to put the percentage, the number that they give you as a percent, divided by 100 times the total amount that they give you. If you are solving for percent B, then you are going to take the portion amount that they give you, divide it by the total amount, and multiply that by 100. If you're going to solve for a total amount, you're going to take the portion amount they give you, divide that by the percent amount they give you, and multiply that by 100. When you're solving word problems, they give you oftentimes there's word cues. So the most common word cues are what. That's going to be the unknown that you're solving for. So this unknown x, that's going to be telling you, am I solving for the portion, the percent, or the total? Which one of these numbers is missing? That's going to be your unknown. Is means equals, and of means multiply. So these word cues are going to help you to set it up into this original formula of a portion equals a percent times a total. So now let's solve some problems. Our first problem says, what is 12% of 120? So the first thing we want to do is we want to convert our word problem to an equation. So we're going to follow our word cues. What is x, or unknown, is means equals, 12% of means multiply, and then we have our constant 120. So now that I have it in an equation, I want to use my formula of a portion equals percent times the total to help me figure out how to solve for my problem, how to set it up correctly. So I know I can set that up as A equals B percent times C. So I see that my equation is in the form of A equals B percent times C. So that tells me my unknown is A. It's a portion of the total. So I'm solving for a portion. That means I'm going to use the formula A equals B over 100 times C, because I'm going to convert this 12%. I'm going to convert that 12% to 12 over 100. So this is when we start putting in our numbers. So A is the unknown that I'm solving for. B is 12. And I'm going to divide it by 100 because I'm taking that 12%, converting it to a fraction by dividing by 100. And then C is my total amount. Okay? So now it's just a matter of doing the multiplication. So there's a couple of ways I can solve this. I can take my 12 and divide it by 100 and then multiply by 120. Or I can multiply the two top numbers together and divide by 100. Either way is perfectly fine. These are the multiplication and division have the same order of operations, so you can do whichever one makes the most sense to you. So whenever I'm solving for the portion, I like to convert my percentage to a decimal. So I know that 12% equals 12 over 100. That's also going to equal 0.12. So that's part of why it's important to know your conversions between percentage, decimals, and fractions. When I'm solving for a portion, I like to convert my percentage to a decimal because I think the math is just a little bit easier. You can use it as a fraction or use it as a decimal. Decimal has just like one less step, but you're going to end up with the same answer. So now I just have a multiplication by decimal problem. So let's set that up. 120 times 12. Remember that when you are multiplying decimals, you want to make sure things are lined up to the right, just like regular. So we're going to multiply. 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 1 is 2. Put X as my placeholder. 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1. Now I'm going to add my columns. 0, 4, 4, 1. You want to make sure when you're doing your problems, make sure your rows and your columns are clearly written and that your alignment is correct so you don't have any alignment errors. Now I'm going to count the number of digits behind the decimals. In my problems with all of my multiplication, I've got 2 digits. That tells me I'm going to start here on the right, go to the left 2 places, and that tells me my decimal is going to be right here. So my answer is going to be A, the portion of the total, is going to equal 14.40, and that number could also be 14.4. Either of those answers would be considered correct. Our next problem is 45 is what percent of 150? So once again, we're going to use our word cues to help us translate our word problem into an equation. 45 means equals. What is my X, my unknown? Then I have a percent of means multiply. And 150 is my constant. So now I'm going to plug those into my portion equals percent times total equation. So I've got A equals B percent times C. So in this problem, I'm going to be solving for B, my percent. So we want to remember that when I'm solving for B, my equation is going to be the portion divided by the total amount multiplied by 100. So my portion A is 45. My total C is 150. And then I'm going to multiply by 100. So once again, the order that you do your multiplication and division doesn't really matter. And you can do simplification along the way as well. Now, if you'll notice, I have a number on the top. Actually, let's multiply that through. That gives me 4,500 over 150. Anytime you have the top number and the bottom number ending in a 0, that means I can divide the top and the bottom by 10, and I can just cancel off a 0 from the top and a 0 on the bottom. So that's going to give me 450 divided by 15. So now what I need to do is I need to do my long division in order to finish up this problem. So let's put this in a different color, and I'm going to come up here to do my long division. So you want to remember with division, it falls to the right, the bottom goes on the outside, the top number goes on the top. The top number goes in the box. 15 can go into 45 3 times. Going to bring down my 0. 15 can go into 0 times. And then I've used up all my numbers. It's really important when you still have zeros, then you want to have the 0 on the top to show that that number can't go in. If you just put your answer as 3, then you're going to get your answer is going to be incorrect. So that tells me that B equals 30, so B percent is going to equal 30%. And that's how you solve for a percentage problem. Our next problem says 32 is 40% of what? So once again, let's use our word cues to help us convert this word problem to an equation. So I'm going to write 32 is means equals 40%. Of means multiply. What is our unknown x? So now I'm going to write that in terms of A equals B percent times C. So this time I'm solving for my unknown is C, so I'm solving for the total amount. And we know that our equation is C equals the portion divided by the percent multiplied by 100. So now let's fill in the blanks. So we're solving for C. Our portion A is going to be 32. Our percent B is going to be 40, and we're going to multiply that by 100. So we're going to multiply that through. Once again, we see that the top and the bottom end in a 0, so that's the same as, we can cancel off a 0 from the top and the bottom. That's the same as dividing the top and the bottom by 10. That's going to give me 320 divided by 4. So now I need to do my long division. Just for the sake of space, I'm going to put that up here. Once again, remember, long division, we tip to the right, bottom goes on the outside, top goes in the box. 4 can go into 32 8 times. Going to bring down my 0. 4 can go into 0 0 times. So that means that my answer C, or my total amount, is going to equal 80. And that would be how I would solve for a total amount when I'm doing a percentage equation. Now let's look at a problem that is a little more complicated. So the first thing we want to look at, it says a team plays 32 games. If the team wins 25% of their games, how many games did they win? So once again, we're wanting to put it into the equation of A equals B percent times C. That's what we're looking for. So we want to identify what are each of those parts. So A is the portion, B is my percent, and C is the total. So let's look at what do we have. So the first thing says the team plays 32 games. So 32 games, we want to ask ourselves, is that a total, a portion, or a percent? So if it says the team plays 32 games, that is going to be the total number of games. So that means C is going to be 32 for the 32 games. Then it says if the team wins 25% of their games, so they've given us a percent. So usually B is the easiest to solve because it has the percent next to it. So B is going to equal 25. And then it says how many games did they win? So anytime they're talking about the number of games won or lost, that's always going to be the portion. So that tells us we are solving for A. So if I put it into my equation, I've got A is my unknown X, B is going to be 25%, and C is going to be 32. So we're solving for a portion of the total. So remember, with our portion equations, that's going to be A equals B over 100 times C. Now I'm going to plug in my numbers. That's A equals B is 25. And C is going to be 32. So once again, I'm solving for a portion. I like to convert my B to a decimal. So we know that 25% equals 25 over 100. And if I convert it to a decimal, I'm going to move that decimal 2 places to the left to give me 0.25 times 32. Now I'm going to do my multiplication by decimals, so that's going to be 32 multiplied by 25. 2 times 5 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Draw an X for my placeholder. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6. 0, 6 plus 4 is 10, 6, 7, 8. Then I'm going to count the number of digits behind the decimal. I have 2, so that means I'm going to start here at the right, go 2. My decimal point is going to be right there after the 8. So that tells me that A equals 8.00, which is equal to the whole number 8. So that means they won a total of 8 games. Let's do one more word problem. This one says a team lost 25 games. If they lost 5% of the games they played, how many games did they play? So once again, we are looking for we're looking to put our equation into the formula of A equals B% times C, where A is a portion, B is the percent, and C is the total amount. So let's solve for each of these variables. So it says a team lost 25 games. So if they lost 25 games, that's going to be a portion of the total games that they played. So that tells me that A is going to be 25. A portion of the total of games that they played are the number of games that they lost. Then it says if they lost 5%, that tells me that B is going to be 5. And then it says how many games did they play? So that tells me C is going to be my unknown. So when I put it into my formula, A equals 25, B is going to be 5 over 100, and C is going to be the unknown that I'm solving for. So now, since I'm solving for C, I'm going to use my C equation. And my C equation, what I'm solving for the total, is going to be the portion of the total divided by my B multiplied by 100. So now let's fill in all those numbers. We're solving for C. The portion is 25. The percent is 5. And I'm going to multiply all of that by 100. So multiplying my numerator together, dividing by 5. So now I'm going to do my long division in order to solve my problem. So remember, to do long division, we're going to tip to the right. The bottom number goes on the outside, top number goes in the box. 5 can go into 25 5 times. Bring down my 0. 5 can go into 0 0 times. Bring down my other 0. 5 can go into 0 0 times. Now I've used up all of my numbers, so now my problem is complete. So once again, you want to make sure that you use all of your whole numbers. Any numbers before a decimal, you need to account for them, and if your number can't go into it, you put a 0 on the top to show that it can't go into it. So that tells me C equals 500. So that tells me they played a total of 500 games. And that should be everything you need to know in order to solve your percentage equations on the ACCUPLACER Arithmetic exam. I hope you have found this video helpful. Be sure to like and subscribe to get the latest videos by Caz Academy. And be sure to see the links in the description to get additional supports and resources, as well as the official study guides from ACCUPLACER. Best of luck to you on your ACCUPLACER Arithmetic exam, and I'll see you at the next video.